A little trivia before we begin. A law is passed long ago in China which dictates that all live service games are required to be defined as open beta at launch. This doesn't affect the player experience in any way, but it's to ensure the game focuses on player feedback and technical issues on release, and typically ends within weeks. Wuthering Waves is a prime example of why laws like this exist. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. Oof, this game really does not like my laptop specs. Are we in Australia?
Should be that, I think. You're awake. Let me see.
Okay, my game is not loading this cutscene. Let's use a placeholder instead.
You're awake. Let me see. Are you alright? Do you feel any discomfort?
Emergency skills for junior patrollers. Lesson 1, CPR.
Huh? I've never done it before. Don Hung, you do it. Wait, stop it! They're awake!
Can we call you that for now? Before you remember your true name?
And you're all gonna call me that for the rest of the game. Alright, let's see if this helps. I honestly can't tell the difference.
Oh, this is an echo.
Wow, an echo of the elite class.
Oh, this whole game is just Pokemon.
Today. Signals back.
This is a holographic message to
My fellow soldiers and citizens, I apologize for any inconvenience caused.
Good evening, my fellow Americans.
What in the fuck?
Yes, the anomalies that occurred after the lament, including the formation of tacit fields, etheric sea, retroact rain, and gravity loss.
Access pass is required if you're heading to the Norfall Barrens. That place is now off limits.
What the fuck are you wearing? At that point, just paint it on like Genshin.
Knows when the soldiers will return.
Oh, now it looks decent.
You might.
Okay, can't be fucked to edit every single thing I say, so here's my gameplay in low settings while I talk. Clearly, there's a lot to unpack here. But let's talk about the release date first. For anyone who doesn't know how games in China work, once a game gets their license, they have around a year to release it, or the license just expires and they are put back in a big wait list. This basically makes it so all of them release it in the time frame, even if they have to rush it. The game, however, is not ready. It needs more time in the oven. Yet it seems like May is their only opportunity to release the game. And why is that? Well, looking at the competition, MiHoYo is having another big game release, and they rather not take their chances to compete with Zenless Zone Zero, who will also be attracting all kinds of new players regardless of how different the game genre is. Looking over at Genshin, Wuthering Waves' actual competitor, they are currently in a stream of the more fillery hatches.
Potion seller, I'm telling you I need your strongest potions. You can't handle my strongest potions.
To prepare for their annual Big Map expansion, starting from August, which encompass 2 patches following the first, all the way until December. By then, Wuthering Waves would have lost their license to release the game, and will have to wait till next year. As for issues with the game itself, I didn't have the best performance, as with many other players. Mobile is straight up creepypasta material. There's also an exploit that lets you access characters that are supposed to be released in a few weeks down the line by just moving your clock forward, because those characters are already inside the game. And apparently, it's completely random who gets a bad experience and who gets a buttery smooth game. Low settings doesn't seem to take the load off your computer either, but I'm sure it's just an issue with the launch like any other game, and it will be hotfixed soon. Is what I would have said. Here's a mind-blowing revelation I'm about to reveal. Me and many others playing this game are actually not the target demographic for this game, but the game is free. How can that be possible? Well, if we check their official website, they put 16GB RAM as their minimum system requirement, which is actually bullshit because I can run it, but we'll get back to that later. Why do they think their free game is entitled to having such hefty system requirements? If I attribute to incompetence, they didn't bother to test with a lower end device or do any market research on what their competitors are. If I attribute to malice, however, they did it so they have no obligation to help any player who are using devices below those specs in order to save manpower. By doing this, they essentially alienated all the players who are using devices below those spec requirements. For comparison, Elden Ring only needs 12GB RAM at minimum, and Genshin Impact, the one game they are directly competing against, only needs 8GB RAM. I know a SSD stick with 4 RAM slots seems like an arbitrary minimum requirement to place, but if you look at all the PC releases from MiHoYo games, they seem to stay at a certain sweet spot, and I don't think it's a coincidence. Through Honkai and Genshin PC release, they seem to found a sweet spot in the minimum requirements. Not even Tower of Fantasy, which also uses the Unreal Engine like Wuthering Waves, overstep those spec requirements. Basically, this is the audience they are seemingly targeting, when in reality, these are who they should be catering to. There is a silver lining, however. 8GB RAM is actually enough to run this game on low settings, as they are slowly ironing out the issues. It's still not as smooth as Genshin, but it's a good bit better than day one. Now we can finally talk about the actual game. Wuthering Waves is a fun game for open world exploration, in the same way where Genshin is a fun game for open world exploration. It has better combat than Genshin, in the same way Punishing Grey Raven has better combat than Genshin, and in the same way Tower of Fantasy has mounts which Genshin doesn't, and has better water combat. But that's the problem, it's only better in very specific aspects. It's not good enough on its own, and admittedly does leave a bitter taste in my mouth that I'm enjoying myself because it's mostly copied from another game I'm already enjoying. If you already love Genshin and have time to play both, I think it's a great experience for absolutely free. But if you are playing this hoping it will revive your love for the open world genre, I wouldn't have high hopes after the honeymoon phase ends. I personally cannot see the great vision they have for this game just yet, in which case I'm just playing a second Genshin with worse performance, and that is not something I'm willing to dedicate time over other games I'm already playing. The game needs to be clear on what it wants to become, that isn't just being a clone. I hope this video has been entertaining, and I will see you all in the next gacha related video. Do leave a like and subscribe.